Hey, and welcome, friends, to another episode of So You Think You Want to Homeschool. And part of homeschooling is dealing with lots of interruptions and making lots of new friends. So I had my daughter Corey here interrupting. She made her own lunch today. Tortellini. Looks good. Yeah, I'm like, oh, you did pretty good. You must not like it, though, because you left it down here. So this is my new friend, Jodi York. And you may not know Jodi, and that's okay, because I don't even know Jodi all that well. I just know she's a homeschooling mom, and she's going to introduce herself and hopefully give us lots of insight. I do have lots of questions for you, Jodi, which I've already sent to you, but tell everybody about you and how we connected. It's really just total God story. So.
Okay, so Jodi York, and I live in the great state of Georgia. And I have 2 kids and a husband, and we own our own company, and we always have.
What is your company? What do you do?
So we're builders. We've always been in some form of construction.
Okay.
Changed over the years and kind of morphed into different things, but we do some type of construction all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, homeschooling. How old are your kids, and how long have you been in the homeschooling world?
Okay, so I have a 15-year-old son and a 17-year-old daughter, and I'm starting my 13th year of homeschooling. So we've done it all the way from kindergarten to now 12th grade.
Oh my goodness, you're almost done with one.
If you would ask me when she was in kindergarten if I would still be doing it, I would have said no.
No way. I know. Okay. So first off, Jodi and I, and the reason why we don't know each other very well actually is I lead an online Bible study, and Jodi found it through one of our other co-leaders, LJ, from LJ's Instagram, and that brought her into the group. And then whenever we had an introduction day and she said she homeschooled, I'm like, ooh, want to be my friend? don't you want me to interview you about homeschooling? And she graciously said yes. So I'm so glad that you're here, Jodi. Well, tell us, what did lead you to homeschooling in the first place?
So yeah, that's kind of funny. It just kind of fell into my lap. It wasn't anything that we ever planned to do.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, school wasn't even something my husband and I really discussed ever, because it was just assumed that our kids would go to the same school that my brother-in-law's kids went to and that our friends went to. It was a Christian school there in town. And when my daughter was at the age for kindergarten was 2007. And so that was right on the brink of the construction, home building crisis.
Crash. Yes.
So we knew something was coming. We weren't sure what it was going to be. But when I called the school and was like, hey, how much is kindergarten? And they told me it was like going to be $5,000. I was like, this might not be the best time to jump in. I think I can do this at home.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it all happened. I knew one homeschooling mom, and I was like, what do you do and how do you do it? And that's how we got started.
So did you meet any resistance from like your family or friends or anyone with homeschooling?
No, everyone was surprised to hear I was going to do it, but nobody really said anything negative about it.
Really?
The most negative thing I heard, and I heard this a lot from all kinds of different people, is what about socialization? How are you going to socialize them? And it was funny because I hadn't thought about that, because we're social people anyways. Like
right.
Wednesday night church, and we have small groups, and we have sports. My son did some team sports on the side, and we were always doing something. So that really never occurred to me that they would not be socialized.
Right. I know. I don't think I thought about that either. I probably, because I'm probably on the extra version of extroverted. So I was like, if anything, we need to shut up a little bit and be home and not socialize so much.
That too. I had joined a couple of groups, to kind of get to know more families. And at one point I was like, we need to drop some of these groups because we're doing more socializing than we are schooling.
School. Yes. So was your daughter, did you tell her, okay, we're going to homeschool, and did she have friends that were going to school, or how was she with starting the journey, or she didn't know any different and you're like,
I knew any different.
Okay. So she's like, dive in, we're going to be good. So what type of, when you're starting out homeschooling, one of the things is like deciding, okay, what in the world am I going to do? And I almost feel like you have to go through a personality type of test to figure out, well, what is your method? What is your style? So how did you pick? Did you just pick with whatever your friend was doing, or how did you pick and what method or style of homeschooling did you choose to do?
Yeah, so I did choose what she was doing, which I refer to as kindergarten in a box. So
Okay.
I just went to the local bookstore. They sold homeschool materials. And so
Hmm.
I need kindergarten. And she's like, here it is. It comes in this box. I don't remember what the name of it was, but literally everything we needed was in this box that I carried out to my car, minus pens and paper, I think was the only thing I needed.
Yeah.
And honestly, it did not work for us. Like it was
No.
very boring. I mean, everything, it was great. The concept is great because I was like, oh, all the lesson plans were there.
Yeah.
It was laid out. I really didn't have to do any kind of work outside
Right.
of my educating part, which was great, but it was just so boring because it was just a lot of paperwork,
Yeah.
papers and workbooks and stuff. And she was bored and I was bored. So,
So how long did it take you to figure that out? And then what did you do?
well, about halfway through the year, I was like, I don't like this. I was enjoying the concept of homeschool. I was enjoying being home with her and realizing she didn't need to be gone all day to do
Yeah.
kindergarten. It takes like just a
Yeah.
couple hours to do. And if she was at school, she would have been gone all day. And I didn't like the thought of that. So
Right.
had joined a couple of groups by this point, and so I started talking to other parents and what do you do, and I came across classical conversations.
Okay.
We really, really enjoyed that. We did that all the way through her freshman year.
Really? So did you explain to people who don't know what classical conversations is? How would you describe it?
Well, it is a co-op, I guess you would call it, and we would meet one day a week with other homeschool families, and we would get all the stuff that the kids needed to learn for that week. The classical method is a lot of memory work, which
Right.
I don't even want to get into that because classical method could be an entire YouTube video by
Oh, yes. Yes, it could. Just
itself.
Google it if you want to know what classical just Google it. Yeah.
We did all of our memory work for the week and play with the other kids. It was really a lot of fun. My kids loved going that day. And
Yeah.
then we went home and that's what we would work on for the rest of the 4 days. And
Okay.
meet again the next week.
So did you start mid-year doing classical conversations or did you finish out that curriculum in a box that you weren't crazy about?
Finished kindergarten in a box. And we started first grade with classical conversations. And by that time, my son was 4, and so he could go to classical conversations too, because
Okay.
they were 4 years old.
So for those that don't know, classical conversations it's nationwide, isn't it? Like you can basically go on their website and you can find a local classical conversations group because I know I'm from Florida and I have lots of friends that did, they call it CC. So a lot of people that did CC in Florida, and now I'm in South Carolina and it's very big here. You're in Georgia. So it's nationwide. And doesn't it go in cycles? Is that how?
Yeah, they have 3 cycles. The cycles repeat when they're younger. And
Okay.
then the information, the memory work that they gained from those younger years, they carry over into middle school and then high school.
Okay.
And
And
I
so
can, if I could plug a book, this
yeah.
book
Oh,
is
okay. It's called
called
The Core. Who
Holy
is who is that by?
Lee Fortins.
Lee. Okay, I haven't heard of that one.
She's actually the lady that created classical conversations, but you can read this book even if you're not doing classical method because it is so good about teaching you how kids learn, like just the way we're made. So,
Right.
and how it's different in different stages. You've got the memory stage and
Right.
the dialectic stage, and then the rhetorical
Logic.
stage as you're
Yeah.
older. And I've read it 3 times, and I recommend it to everybody because it's just so good and easy to understand.
Really. Oh, I'm so excited. I'll write it down. I'm like a book junkie. That's probably one of the things about homeschoolers. Like we become. I mean, I feel like I've learned more homeschooling my own kids than I ever really did in school. So we're learning a ton. Okay, so I know since you've loved CC, now that your daughter and your son are in high school, are they still doing classical conversations, or did you pick another curriculum that they're doing for high school?
No, we kind of had to pick another curriculum. I would have stuck with CC, except that the one closest to us was already a 40-minute drive
Oh,
and
wow.
closed the high school classes. And so it was going to be another like 30 minutes for me to go to the closest branch
Okay.
CC for my kids' ages. So
Okay.
we started doing online homeschool.
All right. Are you doing like an online public school program, or how did you choose what to do online? Like now you've been doing this one method all along and
Yeah.
now it's time to switch it up, which I feel like that a lot of people can relate to. They've been doing a method of schooling this whole time. Now they're switching up. So what did you decide to do and how did you choose?
Well, I went with Liberty University Online.
Okay.
They have a K through 12 program. And I just felt like it was accredited, and I liked the way that the teachers had videos. I liked the way that they present the material, how they have their schedule online, where the kids kind of just go through the schedule, check off what they're doing.
Okay.
I get grades emailed to me, so I
Okay.
know how they're doing. I can log in at any time and see where they are. They have teacher helplines. If, like, we have trouble with math a lot, and so we can call the teacher. They have hours for their help desk, and you can just ask for help, and they'll walk you through how to do it.
So can anyone do Liberty University, like all across the United States? You can do. Okay.
It's an online portal, and you just log in with your user ID and password.
So they get do they get high school and dual enrollment credit?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Now, what about your son? Is he doing the same thing?
No, but let me say this about the dual enrollment. You have to set aside certain classes to do that. It's not just if you are in Liberty that you're automatically getting dual enrollment.
Okay.
Certain classes that they allow for dual enrollment.
Okay. I'm going to have to look. I will link up if you will send me later too, and I'll link up the Liberty, like a person to contact or how to find out more information. Cause I know there's so much out there in the homeschool world. The resources are endless, and it's like, wait a second. Oh, sorry. I bumped my camera. Hold on. We're coming back. Hold on one second. I bumped the camera wire and there we go. I need to make sure I sit really still. I know there's like lots of resources out there, so it's hard to know where to go and what to do. So what about for your son? Is he doing the same thing as your daughter, or?
No, we tried Liberty with him. It didn't work for him. He has trouble being on the computer and learning.
I don't think he's alone in that.
So anyways, we've had a time with him, but we are going to try another online program with him. It's called a Cellus, and I can give you the link for that too.
Yeah.
Cellus, because they have two pathways to graduation for high school. One is the college career path, and one is the path if your child is not going to go into college, which my son probably won't. He's more of like, he just wants to get out of school and start working. So they have trade school type electives that you can take, like computer or HVAC or electrical.
Oh, wow.
Things like that. So I kind of like that for him.
Is it ASCELIS, a Cellus?
ACCELUS.
Okay, ACC. Well, I'll get you to send me the links for that one too, because I haven't heard about that one, and I like that because I know, especially nowadays, not all kids want to take the college track. They want to get out and start working and be entrepreneurs, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, well, what advice would you give to your younger homeschooling self?
Oh my gosh.
What would you tell that girl?
Well, I think the one thing I would really tell myself is smile more, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Make it a love for learning environment.
Right.
So much grades, not so much. I don't know that I was strict. I was strict in the beginning, but I kind of backed off, but I still was just very serious about it.
Okay. It was hard to have a good time.
Yeah, they picked up on that.
Yeah, they do. They really, I feel like every once in a while, moms, that you need to go by the mirror and look at yourself. Yeah, because that's the face that they see all day. And if you're always mad and angry, and you will get mad and you will get angry down the road, especially come like the winter time. And if you're not in Florida in the Sunshine State, there are long winters. And
February, oh man, that's the way.
Yes, and it just can drag on. So what about those that are just starting out the journey? I mean, I know for me, I was super gung-ho when I started homeschooling. I'm like, I'm going to set up a little homeschool room, and it's all going to be so precious and cute.
Yeah. Yeah. And I came from a background of a traditional brick and mortar school. Like that's the way I was raised. And so I was like, okay, well, we're going to start school at 8:30, and we're going to have our little devotion time. And then at 9 o'clock, we're going to do math for 45 minutes. And then we'll take a break. And then we're going to, oh my gosh, it did not.
How'd that go for you?
Look like that. It doesn't way more enjoyable. You can do reading time on the couch with your kids pawed in your lap, and you can watch a video, for education. And, all on the couch for that too. And you can be in your pajamas, and it can be fun. It doesn't have to be so
rigid.
Yes, rigid. That's a great.
Yeah. I know. I think a lot of us fall into that because we want some structure, and but anybody who's been married and had any kids, you realize things don't always go as planned. You can have a plan, but just hold it with an open hand and hold it loosely. What are some practices that you did over the seasons of homeschooling and the different ages of your kids that helped throughout the day?
So I think the best advice I could give is block scheduling. Like
Okay.
just trying to figure out, it's good to have a to-do list for not just school, but just for what you need to do in a week and kind of the schooling that you want to get done in a week. And then I think it worked best for me, just block schedule. Like
Okay.
from 8 to 12, I'm going to make these 2 phone calls and the kids are going to do math and we're going to make sure we get this reading done and then we'll have lunch.
Okay.
So, and then in the afternoon, same thing. We're going to at least accomplish these things.
Okay.
And not to try to be so, ruled by the clock because it just
Right.
doesn't work. And then it's just frustrating for everybody.
Yeah, it is so frustrating because you're trying to do housework. The housework doesn't end when you're homeschooling, and unless you're lucky enough to have a helper or a maid or something like that, all of those jobs. Which, speaking of, did you ever have any help with housework or with their schoolwork?
Well, with housework, just my kids, I think even early on when my kids were born, I let go of the idea of having a clean house all in one day. Like I used to just do my housework on Saturday. It would be clean. It would
Yeah.
kind of stay clean throughout the first few days of the week. And my kids came along and it got harder to keep it clean. And then homeschool came along and it became even harder. And so I just kind of let go of that idea and decided, what, Tuesdays is for dusting and Wednesdays is for vacuuming. And Thursdays we're going to clean the bathrooms or whatever it was,
Right.
and so each day had a thing. So my house wasn't clean all in
All
one
in
day.
one day. Yeah.
Cleaned every week.
That's right.
Everything got done. So
It's like maintaining. Now, were you like a menu planner as well, like for meals and stuff like that? One of the,
when I could do it, that was good. I
okay.
enjoyed it. I just didn't always get on the to-do list.
No, it's so hard. It's so hard. So, when there were days, which maybe you didn't have any of these, but I've had a few of these when you wanted to quit and you're like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. But obviously you kept going. So what did you do in those times when you're like, I don't want to do this anymore? What would you tell yourself?
Yeah, so those were the days that I would tell my kids, I'm calling the school right now and the bus will be here in the morning.
Yes.
That's what I told them.
That yellow bus, you're getting on it.
Yeah. So those days really it wasn't anything I could tell myself because I was really just over it. But I had friends and I would rely on those friends and I could call them and be like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And they could say, these are the reasons you're doing it. Come on, let's talk about this. You've got this. I've had those days too. And just knowing that other people have the same frustrations,
Yes.
thought about throwing in the towel. You need those friends to back you up.
Right.
And I'll tell you the importance of that too with a story because I had a friend who didn't homeschool, but she was
Okay.
a good friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
And she never talked bad about homeschooling, but I think I got the impression that she always thought my kids were missing out. Like
Okay.
she would never say that to me, but that's just kind of the impression I got.
Right.
And I tried venting to her one day when she just happened to be there when I had a particularly hard day. And her first response was, you need to put those kids in school. That was the first thing she said. And what I needed to hear was from a friend who would talk me down from that ledge.
Right.
No, this is why you're doing it. Let's stay the course. So
Yeah.
it's important to have those friends that you can count on to keep you on track.
Right. It's true. And I think that's hard as moms, we fall into that trap of like, well, she's doing it one way and then she's doing it another way. And we'll start comparing and tearing ourselves down. And definitely I know for me, I'm like, it really was encouraging to find a tribe of other homeschooling moms that because and just like, and if you're a public school mom, like find your tribe of public school moms that help you get through that. It might not be as wise to come to somebody who's doing a different method than you are, unless you're really, seeking to change whatever you're doing. But having other support groups is a huge help. And there's tons of them that are out there, whether they're online or in person. I know we had in-person support groups. Were you a part of, other than CC, did you have other homeschool support groups that you were a part of?
We did. And we moved around a couple times during our homeschooling career. And so every time we would move, we would try to find a homeschool group in addition to
Okay.
just to try to, connect in the area. Because there's always groups that are doing stuff outside of school. They're doing
Right.
field, they're doing, mom's night out, or they're doing, a Valentine's Day party or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That way my kids can meet other kids in that area.
Did your kids play sports or music lessons or anything?
And my daughter liked music.
Okay.
We weren't like diehard of either one of those things.
Either one. Okay. Yeah. Mine are playing sports. My younger two, they're not really that interested, but my older two, they're wanting to play all the time. So has there been like a failure or an apparent failure that you learned from your years of homeschooling that you would say, okay, this is where what did not work. Don't do what I did.
Yes, definitely. So I would say listen to your gut, because right around 6th grade, I noticed that my son was not real receptive to learning from me.
Okay.
And I mentioned it to my husband. I'm like, I don't know if this is working for him anymore, because he's just becoming very rebellious toward me. And he's just not wanting to learn and just not learning.
Right.
And my husband and I, by this time, we started out not knowing much about homeschooling. And over the years, we really enjoyed it. And so by this time, we were kind of on board 100%. Like, homeschooling is the way to go.
Yeah.
And I knew it wasn't working for him. And my husband's like, no, this is the best thing for him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think so too, but he's not learning.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, maybe it's a phase. Let's just try to take this 1 year at a time. And by 8th grade, it was a train wreck. Like, it was bad. Where he went to a regular school halfway through his 8th grade year because it got so bad.
Oh, wow.
It was, I should have listened to my gut. And
earlier on.
In 6th grade, whether that was a different type of homeschooling method,
yeah,
or whether it just needed to be something else.
Yeah. That's so hard as a mom. Like, it is very hard to know, especially if you've been doing it one way and you're like, everybody's going to, I don't know, think it failed or it didn't work. And sometimes you need to be able to pivot.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's great advice. Cause man, that's how I even remember when my child was very little, when my son, and he was such a crier. And I was like, you are going to be on the schedule. Everybody says to do Baby Wise and you need to do, like, get with program. And Baby Wise is great for some babies. Like my second baby, she was what they said that babies would do in Baby Wise. Like, she did that, but my first one wasn't. And he was, as Stephen Furtick said in his message this weekend, like, he was unschedulable. Like, that's my kid. And sometimes these kids are just unschedulable and they don't follow your plan. But the Lord, of course, has a perfect plan for them, and just listening to them. So what tips can you give for homeschooling multiple ages and multiple kids? Like, did you sit down every day and we're like, we're going to sit at the table, do our work now? Or how did it look like through the day? And what advice would you give for parents who have got 2 kids or more kids to homeschool?
Well, I can speak for 2 kids that are close to the same age, which I think made it very easy to homeschool. I don't know how moms do it. They have multiple children in multiple ages. Like, I don't even know that I could do that. But my 2 are just 2 years apart. And so because we use the classical method with a lot of memorization, we were able to do it all at the table. I kind of think of it as like a one-room schoolroom, like back in the colonial days, when there was one teacher in the whole town and all the kids got into class at the same time.
Right.
So teach on one subject, and she had kids learning by memorization, and then she had kids learning in the different stages. That's what it looked like in our house. So we had the same, curriculum going on, but my kids were learning different things. So, like, for instance, this was easiest with English. So let's say I was reading a book to both of them, and they each had to write a paper. My daughter's older. She was writing a 5-paragraph paper. My son would be writing a 3-paragraph paper. Same book, same topic. Teach them how to do an outline. One is longer than the other. It just worked out really well. And we did that for history. We couldn't do it with math.
Mm-hmm.
Math, but there's so much of the other subjects that you can teach 2 kids that are close to the same age. You can teach them.
Yeah, you can, which is great. I'm going to be combining a lot of my my kids' stuff this year as well. So, all right, and we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. How did you handle housework and schoolwork, and did you work with your husband's company as well?
So the only thing I had to do with his company was I did HR, like payroll and stuff, which was only twice a month. So I could do that and still homeschool.
Okay.
Housework was funny because about, I don't know, my kids were maybe 9 or 10 years old. One time my mom comes over and she makes a comment to me, and my mom and I have a good relationship. Like, there's no animosity between me and my mom. But she makes a comment to me about how my house is always messy. And I took it to heart because, like, in my mind, I know my house is always messy. Like,
Yeah.
the thing I'm struggling with, I haven't said anything. And she's just like,
Right.
"My house is always messy. Don't your kids ever clean up?" And I took it to heart, right? And so, like, a few days later, I called my mom and I was like, "Mom, that was really unfair what you said about my house." Like, she didn't even, it was so in passing for her, she didn't even remember saying it. And I said, "Well, you said my house is always messy." And she was like, "Well, it is. It's messy." And I said, "Yeah, but think back to when me and my sister
Yeah.
were ages, and your house was clean, and you'd ship us off to school all day. And
Yeah.
we'd do homework, and we'd eat dinner, we'd go to bed. And
Right.
then we'd leave. And we would come home and eat dinner and do homework and go to bed.
Yes.
Your house stayed clean." I said, "My kids are here all the time. Like, I
All
can clean the house at 9 o'clock, and by 11, it's going to be dirty again because we live here."
Yes. Yes.
So I didn't really have a good way to manage that other than just keep the main living areas clean,
Yeah.
your rooms before you go to bed. It's kind
Yeah.
of messy. You
It
just have to understand your degree of messiness that you can tolerate.
That's right. That's right. I think that is it's a great it's a great tip for moms just starting out, which I mean, everybody got thrown into being home with their kids with the COVID and quarantine and all that kind of stuff. But that was a shocker for me too. And I had to remind myself, like, yeah, we went to school. There was four of us, but we went to school and we were gone all day. So my mom had some time and she's just naturally more orderly than I am as well. So, but when people are living there all day, yeah, you do have to kind of just lower the standards a little bit. So, okay, what would you say has been a blessing to you in your homeschool journey? What's been some of the good that's come out of homeschooling your kids?
Well, I think the obvious good would be the friendships that I've made, the
Mhm.
relationships that have formed over the years. I'm still friends with people that I haven't seen, face to face in a long time. They're
Right.
homeschooling wherever they are, and we keep in touch, and that's been a blessing. But I have to say, the biggest blessing came probably about 2 months ago when I was talking to my daughter, who is 17, and her and I were just sharing our hearts about whatever. And she said, "Mom, I'm so glad that you homeschooled me."
Wow.
Said, "I think that I would be a different person if I had gone to school." And she said, "I see so many girls that are cookie cutter versions of other girls. Like, they all want to be the same because they've
Right.
grown up and gone to school with these girls for so long." And she said, "I really was able to find myself because I was by myself so much of the time."
Wow.
And she said, "We were socialized, so don't
Right.
worry." She was socialized with so many different people that she didn't see the same girls all the time. And she was
Right.
able to kind of become who she is on her
Right.
own. And she
That's,
appreciated it. That made me feel really good.
oh, good job, Mama. Good job. If I had my little sign, I would try to think I got my little VIP kid signs that I'd tell you, great job.
On the back, but really, this is all her. So she found it for her.
That's so good. That's so good. I mean, and that's encouraging. And I think other moms need to hear that it can be worth it. It can be worth it totally in the long run. So, and you're not a bad mom either. If your kid is like, I'm out and I never be with you.
And my other one, he's never going to say that to me.
Maybe not. It might take him a little longer. He might have to be married and have his own kids before he recognizes how awesome it was to have you teaching him. So, okay, well, what are you totally into outside of homeschooling? What else do you like to do? Tell us more about Jodi.
I like to read and I like to take walks. I like to be outside, basically. Just like now we're doing this thing and I just wanted to be outside.
Yeah,
I love anything outdoors. I have a little hen house with some little chickens I've had for a couple of years, and so I enjoy them. And
that's fun. Now, did you make your kids did you have chickens whenever or make them do a lot of outdoor activities when you were homeschooling or?
no, not so much. I mean, we all kind of like to be outside, and
Yeah.
I can tell you this about the classical method with the memorization was great with my son because he does like to be outside and bounce a basketball or something, and so that's great with that particular method of educating. The memory work, we would bounce a ball. We would do our memory work, bouncing balls or throwing or just being
Right.
outside and being able to listen to our memory work on a
Right.
CD player, and
That's
not
awesome.
sitting inside at a desk.
Yeah. I think that was one of the things I learned earlier on, especially with boys, that let them like stand up and do a lot of movement when they're learning something, that they're going to be able to retain it for a lot longer. So, well, this was a lot of fun, Jodi. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, you're in Georgia. Are you kind of like South Georgia?
Middle
Middle?
Georgia.
Okay. Well, if somebody wanted to like reach out to you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
So my email is Jodi,
Okay.
Jodi at jodiyork.com.
At jodiyork.com. All right. Well, I want to connect all of my friends to my other homeschooling moms and ones that they've connected with. And if they want to pick your brain more about classical conversations or Liberty University or a Cellus, you've given me, and the core, show everybody the book one more time that you recommended. Oh, okay. Everybody could take a screenshot of that or something, because I know I want to get that one. Is there any other books you would recommend?
Oh, so I was going to say, there's another one. Have you ever read The Well-Trained Mind?
I started that one, but I never finished it. It's a pretty thick.
Well, yes, if you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, it's so big. And I don't have a copy of it because I gave it away to a friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
And, it's very, very good because only the first part of the book actually talks about the classical method.
Okay.
All the rest of the thickness is by grade. So
Okay.
you would in first grade and you would just look. And so the well-trained mind not only talks about how kids learn classically, but the curriculum that she outlines in there is so good. I would try like her phonics books, her science books, any of her books that I tried, I loved.
Did you?
You don't have to be educating classically to use it, but
Right.
they're just really, really good materials that she recommends. Right. And I love them all.
Oh, that's so good. I feel like I'm gonna have to go look on my bookshelves to see if I still have that book, because I started it a long time ago, but I don't think I ever finished it. So, but great resources. Well, thank you, Jodi, for your time. Thank you, everybody, who have watched this or listened, and feel free to share it with your friends. So have a great day, and God bless, and good luck with your homeschooling. Take care. Thanks, Jodi.
Bye.